The sales pitch for this Nereide Tungsteno is that it's the thinnest diver Venetianico has ever produced. Then how in Jack Sparrow's name were they able to do that with a caliber that's as thick as any other Miyota movement out there? When making changes, updates, or refinements to a product, oftentimes the biggest challenge is making them inconspicuous or not attention grabbing, especially when you already have attention grabbing features such as this tungsten bezel and mother of pearl dial. So, what's so interesting about this Nereide Tungsteno that would actually take your attention away from those two features? Well, if you look already, this is one of the thinnest divers that you can ever get. Find out how Venetianico was able to achieve this. Using a caliber that you've never used before is a challenge that may not be easy to relate to, seeing that not all of us are watchmakers after all, but easy to understand. It's the engine that will power your watch, so it better be a big deal for a watch brand to consider. This one change by Venetianico has a far greater importance to the Nereide than most would realize. The first thing to settle is the Swiss versus Japan argument, and this surprised me about this move initially. You see, it was impressed in my mind that this Italian brand is a devout user of Swiss Celita calibers, but my ignorance blinded me to the fact that they actually used Seiko movements before. Whichever it may be, it's the experience that the brand champions. Just listen to this. These satisfying clicks are just a taste of what this new Nereide has to offer. The next great experience that you can get is the crown operation. First, the pop of the crown is softer and dampened. It only has one step, so there's no ghost date on this setup. Also gone are the wobbles of the stem as you wind the crown, another refinement that we can all enjoy. I'm not sure if all Miyota 9039 calibers are the same, but I can now see why Venetianico went with this movement. Moving away from the case for now, and you will notice that this still uses the same beautiful bracelet that has been the trademark of the brand. I don't see any changes on this side of the watch. I love this seamless clasp, and it's always a treat to drop on your wrist. My 6 1/4 inch wrist is very well pleased, and there's no hair pulling here because there's no hair to pull in the first place. Let's not lose focus on the task at hand here. I can already feel the vast improvements of wearing a much thinner watch. Roll back your wrist and you can easily snap the clasp open, another lovely feature of the Canova bracelet. Let's put down this narrator for now and let's switch the table to see how versatile this watch has become. As much as we're raining praises here, there's still some things that I wish the brand is not so stubborn about. They should invest a little on some quick release spring bars, for example. This will really make my lazy bum happier and less whinier. Well, maybe not too much less, but at least less. What that will do is will make it easier for me to switch straps, especially when using any of my Artem sailcloth straps. I know many of you are tired of me using these not so affordable sailcloth straps, but if you want only the best for your watches, you should stop complaining and start saving. Says the guy who gets to keep these things in exchange for displaying them on his wrist. So in the spirit of trying other brands, let's use this Tempomat integrated rubber strap to see how it fits this compact diver. I must say I'm a little disappointed as there is a massive gap between the strap and case, but this is no fault of Tempomat. This is because Venetianico places their lug holes closer to the edge. Also keep in mind that this Tempomat strap was designed for the Rolex Submariner, a much more legendary diver to conform to. So I'm back to Artem and this time I'm going to slap on their NATO straps. Here is a clashing of themes. The NATO strap is clearly working to dress down the watch while the watch itself refuses to comply. Let's use a higher grade band then to match this elegant design. Recently, Artem is promoting these Hydroflex straps and I can see why it's their best product yet. It's got that slimmer and more comfortable fit that matches this equally thin watch. It also retains the exceptional durability and texture of the sailcloth material. What contributes to this amazing feeling is that there is very little padding on this version and it's a lot more flexible due to its rubber lining. This hugs your wrist more closely, adding to the slimmer impression of this Nereide. This whole setup will set you back a whole $1,000 as these Hydroflex straps are some of the more pricier offerings of Artem. I think it's worth the experience, and not to mention that it would likely work with your other watches as well. But even if you didn't invest on these straps, Venezianico's own bracelet and case configuration is more than enough to keep you entertained. Congratulations, you made it this far in the video. Type Kunuku coffee cups in the comments below and see what happens next. If it wasn't obvious yet, this Nereide is already gathering a lot of attention. Peter Middle says that he's tempted by its thickness. Dr. Design thinks it's copying Christopher Ward's homework, and Nizar Muir jealously would love to have one for himself. The caliber used here is credited for the thin profile of the case. I won't blame you for getting swept away by the marketing propaganda, but you'd be surprised that it's not for the reason that you might think. It's only logical to conclude that the caliber itself must be thin to achieve this 10mm profile. But with some research, this Miyota 9039 has the same thickness as the 9015 movement. But if you tried putting that movement in this case, the hand stack of the Miyota 9015 will actually hit this crystal. So what's the secret of this Nereide's thinner case? The secret is the hand stack itself. Miyota managed to make the hand stack of this movement much shorter than the more popular 9015. The Miyota 9015 has a hand stack height of 2.1mm, a depth that I'm sure most of you are already used of. The Miyota 9039, however, measures at just 1.75mm. That's a few floors by hand stack standards. This translates to a shallower dial, thinner bezel, and overall thinner case. It's a fantastic feature that changes the personality of the Nereide in this iteration. This was not easy though. According to Alberto Morelli, it was a challenge to make the changes in the case while keeping the 200-meter water resistance. They achieved this by keeping the tolerances between the dial and movement very tight. This also meant that the case back is constructed differently as the reduction of the crystal height affects the case back's integrity. All these took a number of months to achieve, something that could easily take years if it weren't for their rapid prototyping process. These are remarkable facts of engineering to me that it stole all the glory from this amazing dial. I'm not much of a mother of pearl pirate, but this azure blue pearl is more than welcome in my treasure chest. I don't need to tell you more about this shimmering surface. All you need to know is that this watch changes its impression with every turn of your wrist. There's no date on this watch, making for more real estate space for its iridescence to shine. And I can't believe that I'm saying this the last, but did you even notice the tungsten bezel on this thing? We take this for granted now, but this bezel will last quite a few journeys in the open seas before it even sees its first scratch. This may not be the thinnest diver to date, but this 10mm diver is much thinner than the Black Bay 58 and a full millimeter thinner than the 36mm Legend diver. This is obviously built for smaller wristed crowds, and it's got the materials that makes for a big impact. The Nereide Tungsteno with this kind of profile would not be possible if not for Venezianico's willingness to try out new movements. That is the Nereide Tungsteno from Venezianico. I can't believe I'm not even talking as much about that tungsten bezel and that mother of pearl dial. It's that good. This 39mm case is such a thin diver, and it was surprisingly challenging to achieve this. I was talking to Alberto Morelli about it. They had a number of difficulties to get it to this thin. The dial needs to be really snug to get that 200-meter water resistance. The case back also was designed differently to get this remarkably thin and compact profile. It's amazing. Another smash hit from Venezianico. I don't know when the hits are going to end, but as much as it's here, we're all enjoying it and we're really amazed. And this is another good one for the treasure chest to keep it there and as crown jewel of our, at least of my collection.